Today's lesson is 8-0. Our objectives for today are to use algebra tiles to factor quadratic trinomials of the form x squared plus bx plus c. In Chapter 7, you learned how to multiply two binomials using the distributive property. You do not have to write this part down. So we learned how to say x times x is x squared, x times 3 is 3x, 5 times x is 5x, and 5 times 3 is 15. And then we put those middle terms together and we got x squared plus 8x plus 15. In this lesson, you're going to learn how to factor a trinomial into two binomials. We will quickly look at an example from Chapter 7. You will not need to write this review problem. So basically, last time we started here and we ended up with this. This time we're going to go backwards. This is going to be our problem, and this is going to be our answer. All right, again, this is our review problem. You do not have to write this one down. Here I have x plus 3 at the top. That's an x piece and 3 unit pieces. On the side, my x plus 5 is an x piece and 5 unit pieces. Then I multiply to get what's on the inside, or my answer. And we say x times x here is x squared, and then I'm going to say x times 1, or 1 times x is 1x. So I'm going to have an x piece right here. And then over here I'm going to say x times 1, but I can't write it this way because this is my short side and this is my long side, so it has to go the other way, like this. So I'm going to say x times 1 is 1x, x times 1 is 1x. And then down here at the bottom I'm going to say 1 times 1 is 1, so all these are going to be unit pieces. Once I get everything filled in, it should make a perfect little rectangle with no gaps or spaces anywhere. So to get my answer, I look and say, okay, I have one x squared piece. I have 3 x pieces here, 5 there, and 15 unit pieces. So when I put my 3 x pieces here and my 5 x pieces here together, I get 8x. Okay. So let's compare this answer to the answer you got when you solved this problem algebraically, which we did just a minute ago, and we got exactly the same answer. So again, today we're going to start out and we're going to go backwards. We're going to start out with what's in here, and we're going to write what we should have here and what we should have here. In Chapter 8, we will begin with a trinomial and find the factors. All right, here's number 1. Again, we do these on graph paper just because it makes it a little bit easier. So my number 1 is x squared plus 5x plus 6. So what this means is I'm going to need one x squared piece, 5 x pieces, and 6 unit pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my little table. All right, now when we're going backwards, we have to get what's on the inside set up first. So I always start with my x squared piece because I know it's going to go right here in the corner. Here's my x squared piece. And then I have 6 positive unit pieces. Now don't write this next part down until I tell you to start writing again, because I want to show you what not to do. Since there's 6 unit pieces here, I could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But if I do that, I'm going to have room for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 x pieces. And I don't have 7 x pieces, I have 5. So I want to look and see if there's a different way that I could set this up instead of doing 6 unit pieces going this way. Alright, so we're going to set this problem up again, and now you can start writing. I've got my x squared piece just like I did before, but instead of doing 6 unit pieces this way, since I saw that that didn't work, I'm going to do 2 groups of 3 unit pieces here. That way I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 unit pieces. And if you notice, this way I have a long side and a short side, so I have room for 1, 2, 3 x pieces here, and 1, 2 x pieces here. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 x pieces, which is exactly what I needed. Now this makes a perfect little rectangle here with no gaps, so let's go ahead and find our answer. So up here I have a long side, so that tells me I'm going to need an x piece because I won't have any x squared pieces on the outside, just x's and units. So here's my x piece. This one's a short side, so I'm going to have a unit, and a unit. Then I'm going to come down here to the side. I've got a long side, so it's going to be an x piece and 1, 2 unit pieces, since both of these are short sides. So then I'm going to factor this into 2 factors. This first one's got an x piece and 3 unit pieces, so I'm going to say x plus 3. This one on the side has an x and 2 unit pieces, so x plus 2. So I just factored x squared plus 5x plus 6 into x plus 3 and x plus 2. Then we're going to come over here and check. To make sure that these work. You can also check by remultiplying x times x is x squared, x times 1 is 1x, 1 times x is 1x, 1 times 1 is 1. Okay. But to check this way, we're going to distribute. We're going to say x times x is x squared. Then we're going to say x times 2 is 2x. Then we're going to come down here, 3 times x is 3x. And then 3 times 2 is 6. Then I'm going to put those middle terms together. I'm going to say x squared, 2x, and 3x is 5x plus 6. And that's exactly what I started with. So as long as you distribute back out and you get exactly what you started with, then you have the correct factors. So this right here is my answer. Please make sure you have the algebra tiles, the answer, and the check written before you move on. If you need to pause the video now, feel free to do that. Alright, go ahead and write down number 2. We have x squared plus x minus 6, and go ahead and draw your table. In this one we have 1 x squared piece, 1 x piece, and 6 negative unit pieces, and you can put 1s here and here if you need to do that to see how many pieces you have. So again, this time I'm going to start out with my x squared piece because I know that's going to go right here in the corner. I'm also going to start out with my unit pieces because I know they have to be attached to this end right here. And then I'm going to fill in with my x pieces. That just makes this a little bit easier. Okay, and again, this time don't write down what I'm going to write down until I tell you to do so. If I have 6 negative pieces, if I go like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and again, we show negative by shading them. And I have 1 x piece. If I put my 1x piece here, then I still have room for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces there. And whether they're positive or negative, I can't add in pieces without adding in the same amount of positives as negatives to make a 0 pair. So this isn't going to work. Okay. Alright, so let's look at this a different way, and this is where you can start writing. So instead of doing 6 negative pieces this way, I'm going to do my 2 groups of 3 again. Begin to show that they're negative. It means that they're going to be shaded. Okay. And now I have 3 possible places for x's here and 2 here. So I'm going to go ahead and put in my 1 positive piece here. And then notice I have a place for 2 more positive pieces here and 2 negative pieces here. And I can add in pieces as long as I add in the same amount of positive pieces as I do negative pieces because they cancel. So here I'm going to add in 2 positive pieces here, 2 positive x's, and then 2 negative x's here because I know that a positive x and a negative x are going to cancel. Now I have to be careful because if I have a positive piece here, then I have to have other positive pieces next to it. I can't put negative pieces next to a positive piece. They have to go on the other side. Alright, so now we have that pretty little rectangle, so we're going to see if this works. So right here I've got a long side, so that's going to be an x piece. And I have 3 short sides, so that's going to be 3 unit pieces. These unit pieces are going to be positive because they're touching positive x pieces. Here I've got a long side, so that's going to be an x piece. 2 short sides, so that's going to be 2 unit pieces. And since they're touching negatives, they're going to be negative unit pieces. So I'm going to go through and make sure this works. X times x is x squared, x times 1 is 1x, x times 1 is 1x. And if I go down here, negative 1 times x is negative x. Negative 1 times x is negative x. And if I go here, negative 1 times positive 1 is negative 1. So all these pieces are working. So again, I'm going to factor this into 2 factors. Getting those from the outside of here, I have an x and 3 positive unit pieces, so that's x plus 3. Down here I have an x and 2 negative unit pieces, so x minus 2. And again, you just kind of have to keep playing around with the algebra tile pieces until you can get it to work. So I have x plus 3 and x minus 2. I'm going to come over here and check. And I want you to go ahead and try to check this one, so go ahead and pause the video and try to check it, and then restart the video when you're done. Hopefully you've had a chance to pause the video and try to check on your own. If you did, go ahead and check it and see if you got it correct. If you didn't, please go back and correct it. And if you didn't take the time to try it on your own, please take the time right now to write it down. I said x times x was x squared, x times negative 2 is negative 2x, 3 times x was 3x, and 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Put the middle terms together and got 1x. So x squared plus 1x, or just x minus 6, and that's exactly what I had up here. So this is my correct answer. Again, please make sure that you have the algebra tiles, the answer, and the check written before you move on. All right, here's number 3, x squared minus 4x plus 4. Go ahead and write that down and go ahead and make your table. This time I have one x squared piece because there's a 1 in front if nothing's there, 4 negative x pieces, and 4 positive units. So again, I'm going to start with that x squared piece because I know exactly where that one's going to go. It's going to go right here. Again, this time I could put down 4 positive pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4. But if I put my 4 positive pieces here, 1, 2, 3, 4, then I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places for x pieces, and that's not going to work. So I'm going to do 2 groups of 2 here. That way I have 1, 2, 3, 4. And then if you notice, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 places for x pieces, so I can go ahead and put those in with my negative x pieces. And again, to show negative, you're going to shade them. So there's 2 negative x pieces. Here's 2 more, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4 negative x pieces for minus 4x. This makes a pretty little rectangle, so let's go ahead and see if we can find our answers here. We've got a long side and 2 unit pieces, a long side here and 2 unit pieces, or short sides. Again, since these are all touching, the units are all touching negative x pieces, they're also going to be negative. So let's see if this works. X times x is x squared, x times negative 1 is negative x, x times negative 1 is negative x. Then we go here, negative 1 times x is negative x, negative 1 times negative 1 is a positive 1, because negative times negative is a positive. Negative times negative 1 is a positive 1. Negative 1 times x is negative x. Negative 1 times negative 1 is a positive 1. So you can see this one's working. So I'm going to go ahead and write my factors here. I have x and 2 negative unit pieces, so x minus 2 here. I have an x and 2 negative unit pieces here, so x minus 2 and x minus 2. So this is my answer. Let's go ahead and check it. Again, I want you to go ahead and pause the video and try to do the check on this one on your own, because checking it is back from chapter 7. So go ahead and pause it and see if you can check this one. All right, hopefully you've taken the time to check. Go ahead and check and see if your check is correct. If not, please fix it. If you didn't try it the first time, please make sure you write it down. X times x is x squared, x times negative 2 is negative x, negative 2 times x is negative 2x, and negative 2 times 2 is 4, a positive 4. Put negative 2 and negative 2 together and you get negative 4x. So x squared minus 4x plus 4 is exactly what I started with, so this is correct. Again, make sure that you have the algebra tiles, the answer, and the check all written before you move on. All right, go ahead and write down number 5. We have x squared plus 5x minus 6. All right, that means I have 1 x squared piece, 5 x pieces, and 6 negative unit pieces. So again, I'm going to start out with that x squared piece because I know exactly where he goes. But again, I've got to keep playing around with these other pieces until I get them to work or to fit. So right now I don't want you to write down what I'm going to do. I'll tell you again when to start writing. Now, so far, it looks like whenever we've had an even number here, we've done like 2 groups of 3 each time. So let's look at that. Again, don't write this. They're negative, so I need negatives here. Okay. Now, I have room for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 x pieces, so this looks to be correct. Okay. However, when I go to write my answer here, I'm going to have an x piece and 1, 2, 3 positive unit pieces, and an x piece here, and 2 positive unit pieces, because again, they're touching positives. And when I go to multiply this back out, it doesn't work. X times x is x squared, x times 1 is 1x, and 1 times x is x. But whenever I go here, I have 1 times 1 should be a positive 1, not a negative 1. So this is not going to work. And when I multiply it back out and check, I can see that it's not going to work, even though it does make that pretty little rectangle. So this one is not going to be correct. All right, so we're going to look at this one again. Again, I'm sorry, I had my numbering wrong. This is number 4, not number 5. Getting a little bit ahead of myself there. All right, so this time, since I can't do 2 groups of 3, let's go ahead and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And again, they're going to be negative, so they're going to be shaded. You can go ahead and start writing this because this is the correct way. And I can go ahead and put my 5 positive x pieces in right here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if you notice, I've got one more place for x here and one here. So I can put another positive x in here as long as I put a negative one in here. So I'm going to put in 1 0 pair, 1 positive 1, 1 negative 1 to make this work out. And again, I have to put my positive ones with the other positive ones. I can't put the negative one here. So now let's go through and see if this one works. I've got a long side, so that's an x piece. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 unit pieces here. And they're all going to be positive because of the fact that they're touching that positive x's. Here I've got a long side, so there's an x piece and 1 negative unit piece. And again, it's negative because it's touching that negative x piece. So let's see, x times x is x squared, x times 1 is 1x, and so on that way. Negative 1 times x is negative 1x, negative 1 times 1 is negative 1, negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. So this time it's going to work. So when I go to write my factors, I have x plus 6 for the x and the 6 positive unit pieces. Then I have x minus 1 because my x piece and my negative unit piece here. Now again, I want you to go through and check this. Go ahead and pause the video now and check. All right, go ahead and check your check and make sure that you got the check correct. If not, please fix it. If you didn't write it down the first time, please pause the video now and make sure you have it written. X times x is x squared, x times negative 1 is negative x, 6 times x is 6x, and 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. I put those middle terms together and I get 5x, and that's exactly what I started with over here, x squared plus 5x minus 6. Again, make sure you have the algebra tiles, the actual answer here, and your check written before you move on. All right, go ahead and write down number 5. We have x squared minus 9. So here again, I'm going to do my x squared piece first. And then I have 9 negative unit pieces. And I don't have any of those x pieces here, so I know I'm going to have to add in some 0 pairs. So if I do 3 groups of 3, I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And it's minus 9, so they are all negative. And if I group them this way, then I have a place for 3 positive x's here and 3 negative x's here. So I can put in 3 sets of 0 pairs, 2, 3 positive x's here, and 3 negative x pieces here. And again, I can do that as long as I'm adding in the same amount of positive pieces as I am negative pieces. So let's see if this is going to work. I got a long side, so there's my x piece, and I have 1, 2, 3 positive unit pieces here since they're touching a positive x. An x piece here, and 1, 2, 3 negative pieces here. So this is going to work. X times x is x squared, x times 1 is 1x. And so if I go down here, negative 1 times x is negative 1x. Negative 1 times positive 1 is negative 1. So all those pieces are going to work. So I'm going to go ahead and write down my factors. Here I have x and 3 positive unit pieces, so x plus 3. On the side I have x and 3 negative unit pieces, so x minus 3. Again, I want you to go ahead and pause the video and check this one on your own. And then restart the video when you're ready to check your check. All right, go ahead and check your check. Make sure you got it correct. X times x is x squared. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. 3 times x is 3x. And 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. The negative 3x and positive 3x are going to cancel. And I end up with x squared minus 9. Again, please make sure you have the algebra tiles, the answer, and the check written before you move on. All Alright, this is my last one for the video. We're going to leave number 7 to do in class tomorrow with the actual algebra tiles. This time I have 2 x squared pieces, 5 x pieces, and 3 unit pieces. So I'm going to do my 1 x squared piece here, and then I'm going to have another one, so I can either do it over here to the side or I can go down. That is completely up to you. I'm going to go over here to the side for mine. And so then my unit pieces have to start at the corner right here this time. And since there's 3, there is no equal groups of anything that I can do. So I can either do 3 this way or 3 that way. So I'm going to do 3 this way. And if you notice, I have room for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 x pieces here. So I'm going to go ahead and draw those in. And that's exactly how many I needed. There's 1, 2, 3, an x piece here, and an x piece here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is exactly the number of x pieces I needed. That makes my pretty little rectangle, and I don't have any negatives here. So here I'm going to have 2 x pieces on the top here, and 1, 2, 3 unit pieces. And here I'm going to have an x piece and 1 unit piece. And again, you can check to make sure this works. X times x is x squared, x times x is x squared, x times 1 is x, 1 times x is x, 1 times x is x, 1 times 1 is 1. So it works here. So I have 2 x pieces, so that's 2x, and 3 unit pieces, so 2x plus 3. Here I have 1 x piece and 1 unit piece, so x plus 1. And we're actually going to, well, go ahead and see if you can figure out the check for this one. Go ahead and pause the video now, and then I'll show you the check in just a minute. Alright, go ahead and check your check here. 2x times x is 2x squared, 2x times 1 is 2x, 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times 1 is 3. Put 2x and 3x together and you get the 5x. So 2x squared plus 5x plus 3 is exactly what you started with. So again, please make sure that you have the algebra tiles, the actual answer right here, your 2 factors, and your check written before you move on. Alright, so we've covered that objective. We should now be able to use algebra tiles to factor quadratic polynomials of the form x squared plus bx plus c. And again, we're going to do that 7th example in class tomorrow. This is the end of your video. Thank you for watching.